But let's talk to Lisa Minot, because numbers are what it's all about this morning. 14% pay rise for Aslef, the train drivers, who have been on and off on strike for the best part of the last 2 years, really. Labour government have come out and said today, in the form of Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, that their new pay offer to train drivers is, in his words, a good deal for the taxpayer because it will prevent further strikes. Well, in that case, you might as well just give loads of people loads of money and say that's a good deal for the taxpayer because they won't go on strike now. Let's see what Lisa makes of that. Lisa, very good morning to you.
Morning.
So, I mean, apparently all we've got to do now is refuse to work for a while and we'll get a load of money. How does that sound for you?
Well, I mean, I think for commuters, it is good news because it has really impacted anyone who was trying to get to and from work or any leisure travellers as well. But yes, it does mean that this finally is resolved. There is not going to be any more strikes, but the strings that the previous government wanted to attach to these pay rises, as in more sort of flexibility, more modernised rules, are not going to now take place, which is the sticking point that, you know, really kept this happening for the best part of 3 years. I think it was 3 years and 1 month that we've had strikes from Aslef. So although it's good news, it does mean that the sort of the modernisation of the railways that really does need to happen isn't going to be happening anytime soon. No,
that is the problem, isn't it? And also, of course, there's no guarantee, a bit like the junior doctors, that there won't be another strike, because the junior doctors have said already, in the form of the BMA, that they'll take the 22%, but this time next year, or as early as April of next year, they might decide to have another dispute with the government because they want even more money. Because the difficulty here is that if you give money to people who are asking for it, they'll come back and ask you for more eventually, won't they?
Well, I mean, we have seen that happen in previous Labour governments, haven't we, over the years, where, you know, and what we're trying to do at the moment, of course, is make sure that for the people living there, they want their cost of living to go down, not up. That means that inflation has to stay down. That would be what we really want, is for inflation to stay down. And obviously that's going to be a challenge with larger pay rises for the public sector. Yeah,
absolutely right. And I mean, obviously, Aslef is the train drivers union, which is the main problem when trains aren't being driven. They just don't go at all. The RMT settled a while back, didn't they? Is there anything else on the horizon railway-wise? Are there any other sort of railway unions that we haven't covered yet?
No, I think this is it. The Aslef union was the one that was remaining still to have actually made any kind of sort of progress with the government. So, I mean, it is good news for consumers. We do now know that we are going to have a fairly reliable train service. And what they were doing, of course, was these very staggered strikes, which made it very difficult for people to plan. A lot of it was done over the weekends when people were travelling for leisure purposes to go and see football matches, things like that. So it is good for that. It's good news that we are going to that. But, you know, we've still got a lot of investment, I think, needed in the railways to bring them back up to standard. And that's at a time when it's still costing every single taxpayer a huge amount of money just to keep the railways running. Well,
that's right. And the other thing that people tell me is that, who travel by rail quite a lot, is that quite often during these periods, even when there wasn't a strike, you'd turn up and a train would be cancelled just because they didn't have enough staff, or didn't have a driver, or, you know, didn't have the train in the right place. You know, there's a lot of problems with the train services. I mean, do you think that might be ironed out as well now?
Well, I'm not sure it will be, because, as I say, those are the conditions that the previous government was trying to attach to the pay rises, to modernise working practices. Now, that's now not happened. It's been a no-strings pay deal that's been agreed. So I think things are going to hopefully move in the right direction. We've always seen this Labour government has the idea that they want to renationalise the railways. So there's a lot to see as to what's going to happen to hopefully transform the railways and make them better for the travelling public.
Well, that would be nice. Meanwhile, what's going on at EasyJet? I was reading today that something like 232 flights to and from Portugal are going to be cancelled over the next few days. Why Portugal and why now?
So it is the Portuguese cabin crew airline, the actual sort of... Oh, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought at the moment. It's their union that has called their members out on strike. This is a row, again, over working practices, pay, rosters, and it has impacted quite massively on the network, because obviously it's at least 27 flights to and from the UK that are going to be cancelled, 232 in total out of about 1,100 flights that were due to be taking off and getting into Portugal over the next 3 days. So everyone will be offered a refund or to move to a different date. But obviously this time of year it's very busy. There's not going to be a huge amount of extra flights that you can jump onto.
Right.
Under the Portuguese laws, they have to have a minimum level of service. So there aren't going to be a significant number of flights still going, but then definitely some that are going to be cancelled as well. It's looking a bit sticky out there anyway, because we've had environmental protests at airports in Germany that have really caused some disruption there, and then storms overnight really impacting flights to Spain and Portugal. So anyone who's trying to travel today, I think make sure you check before you leave for the airport that your flight is still running and is still on time.
OK, that's good advice. Lisa, thank you very much indeed. Lisa Minot, their travel editor at The Sun, telling us that there are problems flying to Spain and Portugal. So